Big desert under the Eagle varsity. Ain't no charging to the game, I'm charging them. When it come to this beat, I'm charring it. Yeah, they call me hotter, yeah, this flow is lava. Yeah, it's me and beat, yeah, we go together.
Hey, Diamond Crew. Welcome back to the channel, man. Welcome back to the Diamond Crew Sports Podcast. I am your host, Hada. And today, man, we got to have a real conversation because I feel like everybody outside of Philadelphia is trying to convince us that this Eagle team is straight up falling apart, right? Every time I open social media, every time I turn on one of these national shows, it's the same conversation. The Eagles just lost this guy, right? The Eagles just lost that guy. AJ Brown is gone. They can't keep everybody, right? It's so many different narratives going on, man. The window is closing. That's a great one. I hear that a lot. The question to me, though, is according to who? Because when I actually sit down and look at this roster, I don't see a football team that's falling apart. I see a football team that's doing exactly what championship organizations do over and over again, right? See, it's what it is. Everybody loves talking about winning championships, right? Very few people want to talk about, what actually goes down after you win a championship. Because after you win one, everybody wants to get paid. Everybody. They want a bag. The guys you drafted, right? The veterans that's on the team, the breakout players, everybody, the role players even, the coaches. Everybody value goes through the roof. So eventually, you're going to have to make business decisions that a lot of NFL fans, they just don't like, right? But that's the NFL, man. That's not dysfunction. That's the way the salary cap works. And today, man, we're going to talk about all of it. We're going to talk about, why CJ Gardner-Johnson think the Eagles are breaking up. We're going to talk about why I think he's dead wrong, right? For some things, he's dead wrong. We're going to talk about the player nobody nationally is talking about, that could be setting himself up for a massive payday. And then, man, we're going to talk about this new offense, right? Because every single veteran that's spoken about, what's going on sounds genuinely excited about it. This is not no coach speak. They are actually excited. So if you're ready for this, man, you already know what to do, man. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Become a member of the Diamond Locker if you want to support the channel, man, because we're going to keep this going. And you definitely want to be here because we're going to talk some real Eagle football every time, right? Now, let's start with the biggest story, right? Because before y'all start like, why are you talking about AJ? I'm not here to spend 20 minutes talking about him, right? We've talked about AJ. Everybody has talked about AJ. Quite frankly, I'm tired of it. He's in New England now. That's football. That's not what I want to talk about, right? But what I do want to talk about is the reaction, because there's a lot of people, they're acting like the Eagles just pressed the self-destruct button. I don't see it that way. And here's why. Here's why I say that. Everybody, they keep asking, why couldn't we keep all these players? Why couldn't the Eagles just keep everybody? And the answer is simple. Because you just can't. The numbers don't lie, right? Look at the guaranteed money that's already tied up in this football team, right? We got Jalen Hurts. We got Saquon Barkley. We got Zach Bond, Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, Jordan Mailata. That's over $160 million in guaranteed money committed to just 6 players. Think about that for a second. That's before you start talking about the rest of the roster, That's before you start talking about the draft picks that you're going to have to sign to a contract. That's before you start talking about the extensions. That's before you start talking about the future free agents, right? This isn't a video game, right? Where you could just turn the salary cap off. You can't. Every single dollar matters. Every contract matters. Every extension changes the next extension. Look, championship teams don't lose players because they're stupid. Sometimes they lose players because they simply just can't afford them. They can't afford everybody. That's the difference right there, man. And I think that's where a lot of people be missing the bigger picture, right? Howie Roseman isn't just trying to win one season. He's trying to keep this team competing every single season. That's harder. That's a lot when you put that into context. Anybody can, straight up push their chips into the middle of the table for one run. But if you think about the great organizations, right? The Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphians, they stay competitive because they're always thinking 2 to 3 steps ahead of everybody else. Sometimes that means saying goodbye to good football players, right? It sucks. Nobody likes it, but that's the reality of this. And here's the thing that actually gives me all the confidence in the world. Look who's still here. Jalen Hurts is still here. Saquon Barkley is still in the building. Devontae Smith is still in the building. We still have Jordan Mailata in the building. Landon Dickerson, Zach Bond in the building. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean is in the building. That doesn't look like a football team that's rebuilding to me. That looks like a core. For the most part, a young core, a talented core. And, if you really want to put it in a context, a championship core. Everybody keeps focusing on who left the building. I'm looking at who's inside the building. Those are two different conversations, completely different, right? And honestly, if I'm being honest, I think the Eagle fans need to stop allowing national media to define what success looked like for this organization. If Howie has shown us anything for the last several years, it's that when people think that he's out of answers, he finds another one. Like every single time. Like every time. You feel me? It's Howie W. Roseman. One former Eagle can't stop talking about Philadelphia, man. And I got to be honest, right? I got to talk the truth. Some of what CJ Gardner-Johnson is saying, I just don't buy, right? Some of it, I don't buy it. I think one thing people have to understand before we even get into the CJ Gardner situation and what he said, right? I don't have a problem, with players who speak their mind. If you feel a certain way about a certain situation, if you disagree with something the organization got going on, say it. If you feel disrespected, say it. You know what I mean? To me, that's your right? Because, once you say it publicly, don't be surprised when, people start pushing back publicly. Because that's exactly what happened right now, right? Look, the fact of the matter is CJ recently signed a 1-year, $3.5 million deal with the Buffalo Bills. He got another opportunity to prove himself, and genuinely, I hope it goes well for him. He can really play football. I'm not debating that. I don't think nobody is debating that. The dude has always had a nose for the football, in my opinion. You look back at his time in Philadelphia, man, he has, had some of the best takeaways from any player I've seen in years, if you want to be honest, right? 6 interceptions in his first stint. Six more when he came back. He brings the energy, right? He talks his talk. He gets underneath a lot of people's skin, right? That's the part of, what makes CJ Gardner-Johnson him. He made a comment, Saquon, I hope you're happy. You see the band is getting broken up. That's where he lost me, because what does Saquon Barkley have to do with the roster decisions? Maybe we'll find that answer out, right? Because did Saquon negotiate A.J. Brown's contract? Did Saquon approve the salary cap? Did Saquon decide who stays and who leaves? No. He's a running back. He's not the general manager, right? Like, what are we talking about? He's not sitting in the meetings with Howie Roseman deciding where $300 million is going. That's not what he does. So why is his name even in the conversation? I would like to know the answers to that, because that part really never made sense to me. And honestly, I think that's why so many Eagle fans, had some pushback about it. Not because, they hate CJ Gardner-Johnson, right? Because, CJ has been a really good player for the Eagles. But because the comment didn't really fit the reality. Now, here's where things get a little bit interesting to me, right? The deeper you dig into the CJ's career, the more you start seeing the same pattern over and over again, right? The Bills contract is already his seventh roster in roughly about 3.5 years. Think about that, right? Seven rosters. That's not normal for, a player with his talent. The Athletic even pointed out that, anonymous player polls have voted him one of the NFL's biggest trash talkers and, one of the league's most annoying players. Now, before anybody gets offended about that, sometimes that's actually a compliment, right? Every defense needs somebody who gets under the opponent's skin. I honestly believe that Philadelphia always has those type of players. They love those type of players, right? The problem is sometimes that personality, can wear thin inside the building as well, right? He also racked up 13 league fines, totaling about $195,000 during his career. Again, man, nobody is saying that CJ Gardner-Johnson can't play football, right? His resume speaks for itself. But organizations eventually start asking themselves one question: is the production worth everything else that comes with it? Apparently, several teams have answered that question differently, right? Look what happened over the last year alone. Houston moved on only after 3 games. Baltimore, they signed him, but had him on a practice squad after about a week, I think it was, right? Chicago became another stop. I think he really had a good season there. But Buffalo, man, is giving him another chance. That's a lot of movement for a player with his talent, in my opinion, right? Now, let's be fair. CJ also told his side of the story, right? He talked about getting into confrontations during, Texans camp with someone he described as the GM's friend. He believes that relationship hurt him behind the scenes. He even said, if you're going to cut me. That's probably the most interesting point of that whole interview, because whether you agree with him or not, you don't have to agree with him, but you can tell he feels like he constantly has to prove himself. He also said something that, in my opinion, I actually agree with it. He said, I make plays and still don't know my future. Guys who make plays have guaranteed futures. And there is some truth in that. I actually believe that, right? The NFL isn't always fair. Let's be honest, right? It's a business. Sometimes production is just not enough. Sometimes, like age comes in to the fold. Sometimes personality matters. Sometimes money matters. Sometimes the salary cap decides your future before your performance does, right? That's just the business. That's just the business. But here's where I disagree with CJ, right? Because Philadelphia didn't move on because the Eagles forgot how good he was. Philadelphia moved on because this organization has become disciplined enough not to let emotions make final decisions. And we gotta step up to the plate about that, right? That's what championship organizations do, right? And while CJ is saying the band is breaking up, the Eagles are just changing the instruments, because when I looked at this defense, right, I don't see panic. I see another young player getting ready to cash in. That's what I see, man. And if the Eagle fans aren't paying attention right now, they need to be paying attention to Moro Ojomo. This guy is a really good player. And, that's the story I don't think enough people are talking about right now, man. Everybody is always watching the headlines, right? Always. Everybody's always watching the next splash move. Everybody's still debating what A.J. Brown did. Everybody's now talking about the CJ Gardner-Johnson. Meanwhile, there's a guy that's quietly putting together the resume that's going to get him paid, right? Moro Ojomo. If you've been watching this channel, you already know I've been saying this for a while, that, this defensive line has a real chance to be extremely special. And, Moro Ojomo is a huge reason why. Here's what's crazy. He's a 7th round pick. Most 7th rounders are basically fighting for a roster spot at most of their career, man. They're fighting to stay in the league. They're hoping to carve out a role like on special teams or something like that. Meanwhile, man, this dude has quietly developed into one of the most productive interior defensive linemen on the Eagles, right? I want to bring up a point, man. That's why Bleacher Report listed him as, number 1 under the radar player who's about to dramatically increase his value heading into 2027, right? Talking about the free agency period. This isn't Eagle fans saying that. This is the national media recognizing what this kid has become. Go look at his production, right? 21 pressures, right? 6 sacks. He played about 60% of the defensive snaps. And here's the part, that'll should make a lot of people raise eyebrows, right? According to PFF, take that as you may, his overall grade was actually higher than Jalen Carter's, right? And I understand why, man. His pass rush grade was also higher than Jordan Davis's. Now, before anybody starts running up the comments, right, I'm not saying that Moro Ojomo is a better football player than Jalen Carter. Relax, because I'm not saying that, man. Jalen Carter is still a guy offenses have to game plan around. He's the one that's getting the double teams, right? He's the one offensive coordinators, they just lose sleep over. You have to when you're talking about Jalen Carter, right? But what I'm saying is this. Moro Ojomo is becoming exactly what championship football teams need. They need him. A reliable disruptor. A reliable disruptor, a great defensive tackle who wins the one-on-one matchups, right? That's extreme value. That's really, really valuable. Matter of fact, man, PFF even called him Philadelphia's secret superstar after winning the Super Bowl, man. Think about that. Secret superstar. That's not a nickname you hand out just because somebody made one flashy play. That's earned over an entire season, in my opinion. Now, here's where the story gets interesting. We've literally watched this movie before, right? Remember a guy named Milton Williams, drafted, developed, became a problem play himself into a massive contract. Then another team came in with a bag, and the Eagles couldn't match that bag. That's the business. And now, man, people are looking at Moro Ojomo and they saying, wait a minute. This might happen again. This most likely will happen again. Because if this young man goes out there this season and builds on what he did last season, he's getting paid. Somebody is about to write him a huge, huge check. The only question is, man, will it be Philadelphia or will it be somebody else? Because here's the reality, right? Here's the reality. Eagle fans, they probably don't want to hear this. We can't pay everybody. You know what I'm saying? We've literally already talked about the guaranteed money tied up on his roster. Now add another big money defensive tackle to the equation. You got to remember, Jalen Carter is eventually going to get one of the biggest contracts in franchise history if he continues, to play the way we expect he's going to play, right? Jordan Davis already got his. So now you're looking at 3 interior defensive linemen, all deserving money, all deserving cash, right? That's a luxury most NFL teams simply just can't afford. Eventually, man, somebody is going to be the odd man out. That's just the way it is. That's why this season matters so much, in my opinion. Not because Moro Ojomo has to prove he belongs. I think he's already done that. This season is about determining exactly how valuable he becomes. Because every sack, every pressure, every time he hits the quarterback, every dominant performance is most likely adding another 0 to his next contract. And honestly, if you want to be honest, this is one of the things I respect most about Howie Roseman. People always talk about the trades. People always talk about the contracts, the splash signings. But what separates Philadelphia from a lot of organizations is player development. This front office keeps drafting guys on day 2 and day 3 and just straight up developing them, turning them into league starters, legitimate NFL starters. Then, man, the rest of the league is going to pay him, man. That's not luck, right? That is organizational philosophy. Look how many players have come through Philadelphia, improved, and got cash somewhere else. Look at the last edge rusher that left here. That's why I'm not buying the whole Eagles are falling apart narrative. No, it's not happening. The Eagles are always doing what needs to be done. They always develop. They always compete. They always reload. They always repeat. Now, does it hurt losing talented players? Of course. Nobody likes saying goodbye to good football talent, right? But that's also why you spend so much time drafting well, because the next guy is supposed to be ready before the previous guy leaves, right? That's sustainable football. That's how you get things done. That's how dynasties stay relevant. You feel me? And speaking of change, let's talk about change real quick, right? Let's switch over to the other side of the football, because while everybody keeps talking about players who left, right, we got to keep bringing that up because we don't do that. We don't do that. I don't think people are paying enough attention to the players that's still talking about this brand new offense, right? After hearing what Lane Johnson said, after hearing what Dallas Goedert said, what Cam Jurgens said, I'm going to be honest, man. I got to be honest right here. I think Eagle fans are more excited than people realize right now. This part probably is the part of the offseason that gets me the most excited, right? Because it's not because of the players, right? It's not because any of the coaches, even though we have some really good coaches, but because of what I'm hearing from the guys who actually are inside the building still, right? See, one thing I've learned over years of watching this, players know when something is different. They can sense it. They can feel it, man. You can hear it in the way that these guys are answering the questions, right? Sometimes they give you, politically correct answers, right? We've seen that a lot. Sometimes, they hit you with the typical, we're taking it one day at a time, one play at a time. But, every now and again, you get a genuine answer where it's just genuine excitement. That's exactly what I'm hearing with this new offense, right? Let's start with our guy, Lane Johnson. 14 years in the NFL, man. Can't talk enough about the guy. 14 years is crazy, right? And, if there's anybody on this football team that has seen everything, it's going to be Lane Johnson, right? He played in a lot of different offenses. He played for a lot of different coaching staffs. He played for different quarterbacks. So when he says something, man, I listen to that. Lane basically said he's watched this style of offense from across the league for years, right? He watched teams running this scheme like the Shanahan, Kubiak style systems and always wondered, what it would be like to play in it, right? Now, after 14 years, man, he finally gets that opportunity. And one comment that he said, man, it really stood out to me. That's why I gotta talk about it, man. He said for the first time in his career, man, if a defender beats him inside, he's going to have guard help. And it's going to be built into the scheme. He literally called that a big deal. I think it's a big deal. Now, that might not sound exciting to, the average fan, but, if you're an offensive lineman, that should be music to your ears. It should. Because offensive line play is all about trust. Trusting the guy that's next to you. Trusting where your help is coming from. That's what it's about, man. Trusting the scheme. And when your future Hall of Famer, your Hall of Famer right tackle is talking about how much cleaner things should be, that's worth paying a lot of attention to. It's worth talking about. Then you listen to our guy, man, DG, Dallas Goedert. And honestly, I love hearing him talk, right? Because for a while now, we've all wondered what his role was going to be in his offense. Would he stay, right? Or would he leave? It was a long time we was having that conversation. Would he move on? But instead, he came back on a good deal, right? And according to him, he had opportunities elsewhere, right? Are you understanding? He chose to stay in Philadelphia. Why? Because he believes this football team has another championship run in it. That's important. Players know things we don't know. They see the locker room. They see the culture that this team is building. They are in the practices. And Dallas made it clear as mud. He believes this offense is going to feature the tight end in a major way, and I believe him. He talked about studying George Kittle. He's talked about studying Tucker Kraft. He was at tight end university, along with Stowers. Looking at how, guys are being used in this similar situation is going to be key. And if you watched the Kyle Shanahan offense over the years, you already know what I'm talking about, right? The tight end isn't just a blocking guru, right? He's moving around the formation. He's creating mismatches in the offense. He's getting the easy touches. He's becoming the quarterback's best friend. And we already know the Jalen and Dallas connection. That's exactly what Dallas Goedert is talking about right now. Imagine this. a healthier Dallas Goedert working underneath while defenses have to worry about Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, the run game, Mekhi Lemon, Dontavian Wicks, and everything else this offense is going to probably throw at you, right? This is where things get interesting, man. Cam Jurgens also spoke, and actually I appreciate his honesty because he admitted something most fans probably haven't even thought about. He said learning this offense is basically learning a completely different language. Think about that. I'm about that. People think changing offensive coordinators just means drawing up new plays. No, everything changes. The terminology changes. You know what I'm saying? Everything. The communication changes. The footwork changes. The landmarks change. The cadences change. It's almost like learning Spanish after speaking English your whole life. So yeah, there's going to be an adjustment period, if I say so myself. And I think Eagle fans need to be patient early in the season. I need y'all to remember that. This offense might not be perfect in September. It might not. I don't expect it to be as well. That doesn't mean it's broken. That simply means this team is still learning. But Cam also mentioned something I think is going to help Jalen Hurts tremendously, right? Playing under center more often. Now, before somebody says, well, Jalen has always been in the shotgun, right? I mean, he has spent more time there, right? He has spent more time in the shotgun, and I think he is really good under center. But when you're under center, man, the defense has to respect the run differently, right? Play action becomes 10 times more believable. The linebackers are going to have to hesitate. Safeties are going to have to hesitate. Passing windows get a lot larger. Everything starts working together in that, you know. That's what these offenses are built around, right? Everything is going to look the same until it doesn't. The run is going to look like the pass. The pass is going to look like the run. Marriage. It's going to be one successful play set up after another. It has to be all connected. And honestly, I think, you know, that's why these veterans sound so excited, right? This isn't just about football, right? This isn't about making it super, super complicated. It's about making things easier for everybody. Making life easier for your quarterback. Making life easier for your offensive line. Making life easier for your tight ends. You know what I'm saying? You got to make life harder for these defenses. That's what I want to see. Now, will there be growing pains? Absolutely. Yes. Nobody should expect this offense to look perfect in week one. You shouldn't. There's going to be missed assignments. There's going to be a couple timing issues. There's going to be some communication mistakes. That's football, right? That's the way it goes when you install a new system. But if the players buying into this system are excited as they sound, I think the fans should be excited as well, right? Because here's the part that, you know, everybody probably keep overlooking, right? This isn't an offense being installed because the old one completely fell, right? This is an offense being installed because the Eagles believe it gives them a higher ceiling. If you've been listening to the national media all off season, you'll think the Eagles lost half of their roster. CJ Gardner-Johnson is gone, right? Darius Slay, he's gone. Reed Blankenship is gone. AJ Brown is gone. Milton Williams is gone. People keep making it sound like Philadelphia just had a fire sale, right? But here's my question. Have y'all actually looked at who's still here? Who's still on this football team? Have y'all actually paid attention? Like, seriously. Let's run through it real quick, man, just in case y'all forgot, man. You still have Quignon, right? You still have Cooper DeJean. You still have Reek Woolen, a Super Bowl player. You still have Jalen Carter. You still have Jordan Davis. You still have these guys on the roster. One more year probably for Moro Ojomo. Jalix Hunt can't be forgot. Jahai Campbell got his number back. Let's see what he can do, man. Zach Bond should be ready to go. That's not a defense that's waving the white flag. That's a defense that keep getting younger. And maybe, most likely, they're probably more athletic this season. That's what separates this organization from a lot of teams in the National Football League. Most teams lose talented players. They do it all the time, man. And then they panic. The Eagles, man, we lose our talented players and we just reload every single year. How many times have we watched this happen? You feel me? Somebody leaves Philadelphia, fans panic, national media say the Eagles are finished. Then Howie Roseman drafts somebody, develops somebody, or signs somebody that's been overlooked. And 6 months later, we're sitting here saying, man, how'd they do it again? How did they do it again? At some point, man, it has to stop being luck. It's the standard. It's the culture of the Philadelphia Eagles, man. It's the expectation inside the building. You know what I love most about, how this roster is constructed? It's the age. Go look at the core of this team. Most of these guys are still entering their prime. When you really look at it, man, that's not trying to squeeze one more years out of aging veterans. It's not. They're building something. They're building a team who can compete for years. That's the difference, man. Now, does that mean that everything is going to be perfect? No, absolutely not, right? It's not. There's still going to be questions. Let's be real. Let's be real, man. Jalen Carter and his contract is still hanging over this organization. Everybody knows he's going to get paid, especially if he keeps playing at the level we expect. The only question is when, in my opinion. Make it fast, make it soon. And whenever it happens, whenever this extension happens, it's going to reset a lot of expectations, right? And then you got the wide receiver room. Obviously, replacing A.J. Brown isn't something you just do overnight. We know that, right? Guys are going to have to step up. Guys are going to have to earn their paycheck. Somebody's going to have to emerge. Whether, that's through the draft, which would be Mekhi Lemon, whether it's through some type of development, whether it's somebody surprising everybody. Somebody has to carry the load alongside with Devontae Smith, and we got to find out who that is. Then you got the offense, right? You got the new terminology, new play caller, Sean Mannion. We got this new system, shiny new system that we know it's going to take time to learn how to use it, right? I'm expecting the mistakes early. I'm expecting the communication problems. I'm expecting the fans to overreact after one bad drive. I'm expecting that because we all know what's coming. Somebody is going to be tweeting, I miss the old, and it's probably going to be by halftime on week one. I already know what's coming, man. It's Eagle Nation. But that's why we got to have this conversation. That's why patience, it matters, right? This coaching staff isn't trying to win in September, right? They're trying to, have this thing humming by December, January. That's when championships are won, right? Not in training camp. They're not in preseason football. Not in OTAs, not because somebody had one good play or, had a good practice. No. I think that's where, this team deserves a lot more credit, man. They don't make emotional decisions. They make long-term decisions. Sometimes fans, they don't like them. They don't like them. Sometimes players, they don't like them. Sometimes former players definitely don't like them.
How does that feel to even have a Super ring that in a way you didn't get to really contribute?
It's cool to have, it's cool to say, I was part of a Super Bowl winning team, but, the way that went down, me finding out that I wasn't playing, I lost so much respect for people involved.
Loser!
What did he say? Hello?
I said you're a loser!
When you step back and look at the bigger picture, the Eagles continue putting themselves in position to compete year after year after year. You feel me? And to me, man, that's not by no accident, right? That's one of the best front office in football doing exactly what they're supposed to do. So when I hear stuff like the band is breaking up, I respectfully disagree with that. I don't think the band is breaking up, man. That's not happening. I think they're writing another album. Let's say that. The face has changed. The sound is probably a little different, right? But the standard stays the exact same. Compete for another championship. That's the goal. We got to develop this talent. We got to reload this team. We got to go ahead and repeat that. You feel me? That's what the Philadelphia Eagles have become. And, that's why, despite everything that's happening this offseason, I'm still optimistic. Not because I think this team is perfect. Not because I think there won't be adversity. Every NFL team faces adversity. You feel me? I'm optimistic because I trust the process. I trust the process that this organization has built. They earn my trust. They earn that. They shown us over and over again that they can lose talented players and still fill one of the best rosters in the National Football League, right? Now, it's up to the players, man. To be honest, it's up to the players. Can Jalen Hurts take another step in this with this new offense? Can Devontae Smith embrace being unquestioned the number one leader in this offense, in this room, in this wide receiver room? Can Jalen Carter become the dominant defensive player we all know he can be? Can Moro Ojomo continue proving he belongs among the league's best defensive tackles? Can his secondary become the best secondary in the National Football League? Look, those are the questions that are actually going to decide the season. Not that somebody used to play here or what he thinks. Those answers will come out on Sunday. And personally, man, I can't wait to watch this unfold, man. I can't wait till the season start. Now, as usual, I've been talking for a while. I want to hear from y'all, man. Do you agree with CJ Gardner-Johnson? Or, do you think the Eagles are doing exactly what they're supposed to do to grow, to, build that champion organization? You know what I'm saying? Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Moro Ojomo gets paid in Philadelphia? Or, does he become the next guy to cash in somewhere else like the Milton Williams? And how confident are you in this offense heading into the season? I need to know that. Let me know down in the comments because you already know what's up, man. You already know how we rock. The comments are where, some of the best football conversations happen, especially here at the DCSP, man. Look, man. If you enjoyed today, if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, man. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. You know what I'm saying? We got to do those things. Keep this baby in rotation. Make sure you turn those notifications on so you never miss an upload. And if you want to support the channel, right? If you want to get that exclusive content, make sure you check out the Diamond Locker membership. Gotta make sure you get that. And as usual, man, I appreciate every single one of y'all that's been rocking with the channel. Y'all are family to me, especially if you've been rocking with me this whole video. You know what I'm saying? That's amazing. As always, man, fly Eagles fly. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Until then, hot out.
I don't want to be. I want to spend my life savings on this. I want to abandon all financial responsibility and dump it in here.
Say a message. What? To the people of Philadelphia, your love message.
Go! Eagles! Let's go!